You know, I'm going to be wrong about this because I've been wrong about this for the last 6 years, but I couldn't help but wonder if this is the bridge too far for Donald Trump. He's now said nice things about Hamas. I think he said they were geniuses in how they've conducted themselves. Think about that. He's a genius about people who've been cutting the heads off of babies. Allow that to please sink in. And now to attack Netanyahu. Look, there's going to be a lot of political repercussions to Netanyahu, but it's not going to be about stuff that happened 5 and 6 years ago with Donald Trump. It's going to be what happened in the last 6 or 7 days. That's a reckoning that's coming, but it's not the right time to do it right now. Is this the thing that starts to turn some of Trump's MAGA supporters against him? Probably not, but this is really pushing the envelope, in my opinion.
All right. It was interesting hearing what he said last night. And then I woke up this morning and read a report in Politico as it relates to President Biden's speech yesterday that he gave right around this time yesterday. And basically the report from Politico was they kept bringing the draft script to President Biden, and he got rid of all the wishy-washy stuff and said, let's level it up. Here's Politico, quote, "The speech that came into prep and the speech that came out were vastly different," said one knowledgeable source. "Whenever an aide tried to water it down or both sides it, Biden angrily and forcefully shot it down." So it seems like you have the current president and the former president going in seemingly, at least on the rhetoric, in two different directions here, Johanna.
Yeah, you do. And look, a lot of people like to say that the president isn't in charge, but he was taking charge in this situation. And I do believe every person who I've talked to is in the administration says he's very much in charge, especially at these critical moments.
And he's a huge supporter and always has been of Israel. So I think that this is true, and this is...
Well, there have been some criticisms of the Obama-Biden administration at the end, what happened with Israel, and then certainly the tense relationship between Biden and Netanyahu.
I understand that, but you have to think that was... I mean, the president's still the president, the vice president's still the vice president. But when he, in the 70s, started visiting, that was his first official trip as senator, was to Israel. I think he has a true... belief in supporting them, and I think he's doing a good job.
Well, you also have Franklin Foer in his book, The Last Politician, about Biden, pointed out that Biden's strategy towards Netanyahu was and remains smother him with love. Yeah. So it's strategic.
So there's obviously the rhetoric, right? And then there's the policy. So I was reading that in Politico, like, oh, they he wanted to amp up the speech. And then, I go back to this Washington Post headline from today on the policy. Quote, "Trump drew a red line with Iran on killing Americans. Biden must enforce it." At the end of the day, there is the talk, but then there are also the actions. Does Joe Biden need to go where Donald Trump went when he was the commander-in-chief?
Donald Trump did not go there, and neither did Republicans. Iran supplies the drones to Russia that are part of the drone strikes on innocent Ukrainians, which is why Putin cannot condemn Hamas. And there are Republicans and folks in the Trump camp who are political shields for Vladimir Putin and therefore with Hamas. There is no red line in reality. That is rhetoric. And can I just read one thing, Blake, from an Israeli minister, Shlomo Karni, in response to Trump's comments? "It's a shame that a person, a former president, assists in propaganda and disseminating things that harm the spirit of IDF fighters and the spirit of Israel's residents." It is a travesty what he's doing.
I know you're trying to link this to the Trump and Russia and what you call the staff. But, I mean, here's June of 2019. Pompeo warns Iran about trigger for U.S. military action as summit administration question aggressive policy. He basically told Iran, if you touch a U.S. troop, we're coming after you. We haven't heard that language as aggressive as it relates to Iran from Joe Biden at any point over the last 6 days.
I also think, sorry, did you have
No,
something?
go ahead.
No, I also think, going back to saying that I do think he's doing a good job of what he's saying, but the policies leading up to this, America looks really weak on the world stage, and we all know. No matter what people think of Donald Trump, people didn't mess with us because they were scared to death of what he was going to do. And so whether that worked or not, it was a strategy, and he knew it was a strategy. However, I just want to say one thing. What happened in Afghanistan, actually, what happened with Obama back in Syria, where he put the red line down and never did anything. Right. And then you go to Afghanistan, which was a complete embarrassment. And then you give the $6 billion conversation that we'll have later. But, I mean, it's just...
You must be reading the teleprompter, because that's where we're going next.
Well, but there was an unprecedented, the France, UK, Germany, America, on one statement on Monday that President Biden led and got folks together on. He did a masterful job of getting the Western world united in this moment. He's not done nothing. He's done an incredible job leading, while Trump is inflaming and creating disinformation at the same time.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.